Anyway, welcome to our second member gathering of the Reimagining Dementia Coalition for June. My name is Mary Fridley. I know most of you, but for those who may not know me, I have the good honor of being the coalition's coordinator. If this is your first gathering, you may have been part of the coalition for a while, but if this is your first gathering, can you just raise your hand so we can? Great, wonderful. Nice. Wonderful, welcome. It's nice to see new faces, and that's just and you know, I'm glad you're here. We're glad you are part of this and part of a group of people who are, I think, working pretty hard to see what we can do, if we can come together and kind of leverage all that we've accomplished and go even further. Just so you know, the coalition now has some 700 plus members. I think our latest country is Portugal. So that I think we're up to about 30 countries or so. One of those countries is Malaysia. In fact, we have a colleague, Joanne, here. She's now in Singapore, but is originally from Malaysia. And as you know, our Reimagining Dementia colleagues and particularly Cecilia Chan has, created their own Let's Reimagine video. If you have not seen it, please take a minute. It's a 4-minute long. You can take a break in your day. Watch it, even because I know some people probably think, well, it's the same video. But it's not really. It's a reimagining of reimagining and kind of them making it their own. So please take a moment to watch it on our website and share it. But I was thinking about it, and I just, as you all know, or you know me at all, I'm kind of consumed with creating community. I love bringing people together and experiencing the power of what we can do together. But I was thinking about it. I was watching the videos again, and what kind of hit me was, oh, that is building community. To see how people came together to do this, and the joy and just the thrill of it was it's not just something you do over here and then you'll apply it over here to get things. No, that is how we can continue to create community. And I hope others will kind of take that and run with it as well, and just create something that gives expression to what reimagining dementia means to you. As I said, we have about 700 members, and which is good. I mean, we continue to get them every day. We're thrilled. However, I think one of the things that, again, I've been thinking about is that ultimately, though, this isn't a numbers game. I mean, we would have to probably get 54 million members to have the kind of impact we would like. It's unlikely to happen in the next few days. So really, I think what we've been talking a lot about, and I think this conversation will hopefully continue that, is really like how can the coalition enhance existing efforts, work in partnership to create some new initiatives or new conversations. But whatever we do, our kind of role is to leverage what we have together and what we've built and our collective and joint efforts and successes and learnings and all of that, to kind of leverage that so we can just maximize our impact. We're not looking to do things alone. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel. I think we bring a unique voice and experience into the dementia conversation. I think the role that creativity, broadly speaking, which includes the arts, is critically important. I think there's a lot of very important work being done in this area. I think it has to be included in every aspect of the conversation taking place in our world, certainly including about dementia, whether it's from research to practice to whatever it is. And I think that's a big part of our role. And we obviously can't do it without all of you and all the people who the many more people, not only who are members of the coalition, but this is how they want to work. This is what they care about. I did want to say that what's been particularly gratifying, and then we'll turn it over and start to play some, is, a lot of people have been reaching out to the coalition. We just recently co-hosted a kind of a cross-Canadian conversation with the Hamilton Council on Aging, which has launched called a Faces of Dementia campaign, which again, folks should check out. And it features a lot of people living with dementia, including several people who are involved with the coalition. Some of our UK members, I don't think Kate is here. They've been taking the coalition out to local fairs, community events, and have been, participating in a conversation sponsored by the Journal of Dementia Care there about how to reimagine the dementia conversation in London. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think people are, mostly what I want to convey to all of you is the level of inspiration people are drawing from the coalition existing. It is just, I think it's, and more and more folks are saying, hey, maybe we could do something more together. Maybe we could work together to bring this into whatever the particular area. I mean, all of us are doing very different work in very different communities. And that to me is, I think that's a big part of why we decided to, well, I don't know, when we started, you can't pretend you knew exactly what you were meaning to do, but if we had really known what we were going to do, this would certainly be an important part of what it would look like. So I'm very grateful. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the team who's going to lead our kind of next play conversation section, and please take the spirit of play into this. Let's see what we can discover and kind of see what we want to be doing together. So I'm going to introduce two of our steering committee members, who, as I said, will lead the way for the rest of the hour. First up is Sherry Dupuy. And some of you may know her. If you're not, you should certainly. I'm glad you're meeting her today. She is extraordinary. She is a professor in the Department of Recreation and Leisure Studies and University Research Chair at the University of Waterloo in Canada. She also co-leads the Partnerships in Dementia Care Alliance and other culture change efforts. She has been a real beating heart of the coalition, and somebody who I've gotten to know and really, really appreciate. Nancy Nelson has lived with dementia for almost 10 years. In that time, she has published 3 books of poetry. It speaks to large groups, small groups, and between groups about education, public policy events, has participated in dementia research, and with Kat Hartley has founded, which again, I urge you to check it out. It's a delightful podcast called Dangle and Dot. In case anyone's wondering, Nancy is Dangle. Anyway, Sherry and Nancy, can we spotlight them and you take it away.
Thank you, Mary. So Nancy and I are members of a subcommittee of the coalition that's focused on exploring stigma and dementia and the medical system. And this subcommittee was formed several months ago now when a well-known health professional sent out a tweet after some dementia champions had given a presentation at an event. The tweet actually said this: "We're allowing people who claim to have dementia but clearly do not to fabricate an entirely false public view of the condition and invent a new phenomenology of the experiences that patients have and what may help them." So as you can imagine, this post was deeply upsetting to members of the coalition, and some of them reached out to us. And asked if we could maybe do something about it. And so that's how our subcommittee happened. And since then, it has generated quite a lot of discussion within the subcommittee. So as a group, we've decided that we wanted to try and understand both how people living with dementia have experienced this type of stigma, so to gather stories around that, but also to understand how people within the medical system have experienced these scenarios. So for example, we know that healthcare professionals have had to give a diagnosis and then change that diagnosis. And what is that like for them? So we're in the process of gathering stories, and we're hoping that today we might inspire you to help us in gathering those stories. And we're going to actually start gathering some of those stories with you today. So to give you an example of that, I'm going to turn it over to Nancy, and she is going to share a personal story for you as an example. So Nancy, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here this morning and glad to see so many new faces. It's wonderful. I was diagnosed in 2013. My dad passed in 2002 from Alzheimer's. I was diagnosed in 2013 with early onset. Wow. Early onset Alzheimer's, and then in 2017 or 18, it changed to mild cognitive impairment. Now, I didn't have, we all are astounded when we're actually diagnosed, but it was worse for me when I got the second diagnosis, because I believe in full disclosure, and I would say I have a second diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment. First, you must know that I've never owned a title. I never say I have it. I say I've been diagnosed with it. Some might say that's denial. I say that's a way to get through it. And it has worked for me. And so, but in that experience, you see people who the doubt shows. They suddenly don't think you have anything. I still can't drive and connect streets. I still miss appointments. These people would know. I still do things that are crazy and silly and very much dementia-like. I'm not trying to own that title. I'm simply saying that nothing changed when the second diagnosis appeared, and people started changing. And you would see their eyes shift, or I had people time and time again, there's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. And while at first I felt personally that I had to justify that. And then as I got to thinking about it and became more ensconced in the reality of it all, I thought, I don't have to justify that. I simply say thank you. I can't change their mind anyway. But what it does do every time someone doubts you, and you can see it in their face, guaranteed you though that we are more sensitive, that we do have a tendency to take things more to heart than we might have if we'd never had any diagnosis. So I keep that in mind. But to say there's nothing wrong with you, come on, that kind of thing, it's diminishing, and it's stating to everyone that hears them, oh wow, I never thought of that. That could be true. She really doesn't have it, and therefore, a person who had been respected and would seek me out and listen to what I had to say, kind of no longer was doing that. They were standing back and sort of going, I wonder. So it does so many diminishing things to a person on top of being diminished. And I think it's not their fault. I get it. They don't know. They don't understand. And they don't walk in my shoes. And it's something we can overcome. Communication is key, and becoming a partner in your own health is absolutely imperative. And Reimagining Dementia has brought a whole new volume of seeing the bigger and better picture. And so I am glad to be here and glad to be able to share my story with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. So now what we're going to do is put you into breakout rooms, and we would like you together to explore a couple of questions that I will put in the chat. So when you get into your breakout rooms, first of all, we need you to identify somebody in the group who'd be willing to document your discussion. So just take notes. They can just be point form. And then we would like you to explore these questions. Tell a story of a personal experience you have had or that you know of an interaction of a person living with dementia with the medical system. And this can be a positive story or a negative story. What happened, for example? Have you ever had an experience where the diagnosis of dementia was changed, or you were told that you or your relative did not have dementia? How did that feel? Or did you ever, if you're a healthcare professional, ever have to change a diagnosis? So whatever your personal story is, we need to hear both the good ones and those that are not so good. And then if we have time, we want to be able to use the arts and creativity to raise awareness of the harms caused by this type of stigma, and hopefully use it to provide alternative ways of relating with persons living with dementia. So what ideas do you have about how we might use creativity to showcase this type of stigma and show people that there's another way, that we need to do things differently? Mary, what are you thinking in terms of time?
We have, let's see now. Yeah, I think we can go about 22 minutes.
All right.
So, and that'll be, so it's 21 minutes and then folks will get a 1-minute warning.
Okay, so share your stories with each other in the breakout rooms, and we'll see you back here in about 21-ish minutes.
Sorry, Sherry, can I just add a quick thing? Also, if people happen to know others who are doing this kind of thing, who might, just to add their net so that we are aware of everything that's going on. You could, I mean, that doesn't have to be a big topic of conversation, but we'd also love to know. Great, Trudy, you want to take it away? Is this right? Okay. Sherry, you want to?
Yeah, so I'm cognizant of time, and we have about 10 minutes left together, I believe. So I think what we'll do is, if those of you who took the notes or documented your conversation, if you could please share that with me or Mary, I can put my my email in the chat for everyone. But I think what I'd like to do is spend the rest of our discussion talking about how we might use the arts and creativity to challenge this type of stigma and show the world the harm that this causes, but also perhaps show them that we can do things differently. So what are your ideas about how we might be able to use the arts to do this? Jane?
We were just talking about, amazing, that was such an amazing event between us all, sort of really inspirational. One thing I was saying, I've done, because I do some training, and I've created films, and people who have dementia are in the films, and the one I've got is called My Favorite Things. But I think we could perhaps do a similar thing about this, where there's a little sort of snippet of each person talking about, you know, whatever they want to talk about, but in terms of this idea, so that, you know, it's you know, there's a few minutes each. They're not rushed, obviously, but it's they naturally, that those films would be edited, that the pertinent points of, you know, I have dementia and this is how it affects me. and it may be different to other people or what you'd expect, but I do have dementia, sort of thing, and how it's really, you know, really hard when people challenge that or something. So it would just be sort of different voices, and culturally as well, because Holly brought up a lot about the difficulties in sort of diagnosis around culture as well. So in that way, just having films with people who have not everyone who has dementia, because I'm very much about taking that power away. So in the film, you have people who have dementia, people like we have here, people who don't, but people have experience, and just a little sort of 8 to 10 minute film of sound bites, really. So maybe that might help.
Great.
I love that idea. I don't mean to just jump in. There was in our group, there was a comment about, I'm a filmmaker who works creatively with people who have dementia, but there was one of the Melanie was sharing about her mom and what a doctor thought dementia looked like. She had, you know, she couldn't have dementia because her hair was done and her clothes, her socks matched, and this and that. And it's astonishing how many, you know, how prevalent that is. So, I mean, I also think that I know the faces of dementia, I haven't looked into it, but even just a short thing of like, you know, I'm working with somebody who's 45 who has dementia, somebody, you know, like I am, you know, just like a quick thing of like, this is the face of dementia. This is the face of dementia. This is the face of dementia. And then neurologists being like, talking to neurologists too about what is, you know, just talking to doctors about like, what does dementia look like? Just a description. Something it could be interesting in that way.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'm always really blown away by children and seeing young children and their beautiful relationships with people living with dementia. And I say this from my own family, where my daughter's 10, and she and my mom are magic together. Like, and I think it is in part because of the creative expression that a child can bring to a conversation and naturally is able to draw that out of other people. And so I often see a totally different side of my mom that she wouldn't necessarily show with me, but she's open to showing with my daughter and naturally kind of comes out with her. So sometimes that's through storytelling, whether it's my daughter or my mom. My mom loves to share stories with my daughter about her childhood and growing up and being a teacher, and visual drawings. So my mom lives in long-term care and we have a whiteboard in her room. And so every time my daughter and my mom will draw on her board together. And so it's often little things that we take for granted, but really contribute to this relationship that just flourishes, and they kind of draw upon each visit that we have with my mom and expand upon it each time. And then the last one I would say is music. That my mom really is drawn to music, especially when my daughter plays something, like even if she has not real instruments, but, you know, just taking sticks from the garden and, you know, tapping them on the chair and things like that, or we play music. And, you know, my daughter can dance with my mom in her wheelchair. So I think I would love to see an opportunity for children to be part of this.
Yeah, that's great, Melanie. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Has put in a link to a film. We'll have a look at that. Thank you very much.
By the way, can I just say it is a wonderful film. It was one of the first I ever saw, and I'm a big fan of Maria Irene Fornes, but it's a lovely film. So I recommend it.
I just wanted to add to that collaborating. I mean, I think the key is like, how do we collaborate with people so that the agency isn't hierarchical? And so when you come in, so in terms of, incorporating people in the filmmaking process or in the creative process, so there's not this sense of object subject or director subject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a number of people in the coalition who have done that co-production process in the arts. So we're very, very aware of the importance of that. Yeah, and how the stigma could actually be perpetuated when you don't do that. Any other ideas about how we might use creativity? There's 2 minutes left, so.
I was just thinking then about obviously the creative interaction with people with dementia diagnosis or a cognitive impairment diagnosis, but also with, I'm thinking about a creative relationship with the medical profession, because it's actually for people, medical practitioners, to understand the importance of a kind of more playful, and I don't mean undermining kind of medical side of it. I mean how so often their ways of delivering information or diagnoses or changing diagnosis, whatever it is, comes up within a very limited kind of palette, and there's something about that hierarchical setup. I don't know how amenable people would be, but there's something about that offer going to carers. I'm very interested in relating with carers as well, about present interaction and playfulness, and not to in any way undermine the challenges, but in a way to kind of find the kind of joy in the moment and the kind of meet the person you're with, not the person who's the idea of the person you have based on a diagnosis. Because so often diagnosis defines someone when actually you miss who you're actually opposite in that moment. So it's something about that is interesting, whether there's an offer there as well.
Yeah, that's really important, Kate. Thank you. We've had some conversations in the subcommittee about the importance of doing this with the medical profession, because they are, are very much in a system that doesn't support them in seeing and responding to the complexities. And Pia and I have been trying to explore different medical conferences we could go to and start the discussion at least there. So absolutely, I think that's really important. I'm cognizant of time. We would love you all to be ambassadors of gathering more stories. After this week's member gatherings, we will be sharing out a document that could help you if you want to collect some stories or share your stories. But in the meantime, please share your notes from the breakout rooms with either Mary or myself so that we can add them to the stories we've already started to collect. Thank you all. This has been wonderful. We've learned a ton from you. Thank you for being so engaged.
Yes, thank you. And now, as is part, we're going to also dance our way out. Trudy, you want to bring it up so we can end our meeting in a way that sends everybody off, hopefully to play the rest of your day, no matter where you find yourself